Good evening, Music Multiverse listeners. This is Mark Kuligowski, and welcome to another special edition Album Listen Challenge, the best of 2023. We're going to go through maybe 10 of these best 2023 albums throughout the year. And our last previous one was Sleep Token, the album Take Me Back to Eden. That was Deb and Sue. But tonight, well, before we get into that, tonight's special edition. If you're new to the channel, welcome to the moment. It's a wild place.
No.
Click the subscription button to catch the truth. The Gray Boy says, do some liking and commenting, please. This album listen challenge comes directly from me, the boss. To our panelists tonight, who I have with me, the Grateful Dude, Jeff Young, and Alex Kuligowski. Tonight, it's my number 16 album, halfway through this year of 2023. It's the first collaboration between Gord Downie and Bob Rock. Unfortunately, it will be the only collaboration at this point. Gord Downie, frontman, arguably of one of the biggest Canadian bands of all time, the Tragically Hip, and Bob Rock, legendary producer, who has worked with legendary acts such as Metallica, Motley Crue, Bon Jovi, Aerosmith, The Cult, The Offspring, Michael Bublé, and David Lee Roth, just to mention some large ones. Here's an interesting thought. In 1991, Bob Rock produced the 16 times platinum Black Album from Metallica. In that same year was the release of Road Apples. Bob Rock is Canadian, so are the Tragically Hip. There's no question that Bob Rock knew about that record and knew how massive it was in Canada. Do you think it's coincidence that he eventually wound up producing two of their records, World Container and We Are the Same? And in between that time, he and Gord Downie got together, and I'll put it in his own words in a bit, got together and put together this record of songs between that time frame of 2010 basically to 2015. News of Downie's terminal cancer got to Bob Rock, so he traveled back to Toronto from his home in Hawaii. These were special days. Gord put on some records. We sat and talked with the music in the background. Strange, but I don't think I'd done that kind of thing in 20 years. The two had made an unreleased album together that basically not many people knew about. And now this year, it came to fruition at the request of Downie, who told Rock, be sure at the end that the album is not lost. I told him that, of course, I would. I had to do it. Tonight's album, Lustre Parfait. The format will be slightly different. Just so we're clear, the album production is 1 to 5. The album flow, 1 to 5. Songwriting, 1 to 5. Musicianship, 1 to 5. Total number of songs that you liked, your overall rating. I guess I can start off tonight. Let's go with Alex.
Well, it's always good to start off with someone who's always wrong. It can only go up from here.
This is true.
Man, I'm trying to think where to start with this because this listen for me was so interesting. My thoughts were as layered as I thought the album itself was. I was very surprised with how quick the album came out the gates in terms of the tempo and the speed, and came out hot. It had a little 80s to it, and I thought that was a common theme throughout the album. Through about a quarter of it, sprinkled throughout was an 80s vibe to it on the musicianship. You get to track 2. It was odd hearing storytelling with such an indie pop sound behind it. I thought the vocals gave it a heavy feel. That was another critique I had with this album throughout it, is there was a lot of times for me that Gord's voice, as iconic as it is and as deep as it is, clashed a little bit sometimes with maybe what was behind it musicianship wise. And yet neither were bad. It was just different because you don't hear that voice and that music behind it coming together really ever. Any part of this album that I thought had any sort of Tragically Hip influence strictly came from the vocals and the rhythm at which they were delivered.
Yeah, I felt like it was an album that was a Gord Downie album. It wasn't like, hey, here's a great band with Gord Downie singing.
Correct.
It's a Gord Downie album.
Yeah, and like there were songs that gave me a hip vibe, but I also know that the music followed the lyrics, whereas sometimes it's the other way around. You get into track 3. I had the list here pulled up, so it was a little easier.
Well,
When you get into
if you're saying 3, that's Lustre
it's
Parfait.
Lustre Parfait. I had it pulled up here. I just didn't. I don't know why I didn't have it on. Like the horn intro, thought it was different, and then I'm thinking I've heard this music before, but it wasn't sustaining me what it was, but it was pleasing, and it was almost like a refined ska in a way. And then I started pulling together influences of bands like Jet and OK Go and Treble Charger and Gob and Jimmy Eat World were coming to mind, and like Reliant K and Matchbox 20. I'm like, where the hell am I trying to pull all these random thoughts out of? And it was really just that you get a band with that pop sound like that, and then you add Gord's mature vocals, and it gave it legitimacy to a song like that. So I thought that's where I came through on that. The Moment is a Wild Place. I could not believe that was a 7.5 minute song. And I felt like I was listening to, when I say that there were some songs that gave me a hip feel, I immediately thought I was listening to something on par with Now the Struggle Has a Name. When I first heard that song, it gave me that. I'm trying to find a comparable, and that constantly came to mind with the ominous delivery of it. Something more.
I didn't think that album had ominous, or that song had ominous delivery, right? He's
thought,
talking about how that moment now, how it's just a wild place. You don't realize it. You don't, you say you want to live in the moment.
And I think comparing the two songs, it was more of that reflection feel, coming after deep thought. That's where I'm really getting at with that.
Well, there's no question that if you look at the chronologicalness of these songs, probably, and what was going on with the hip writing too, because that song that you're mentioning is in that time frame. I just don't remember which album off the top of my head.
Something More reminded me a lot of, it had an R. Kelsey sound with the horns, and then I'm like thinking, all right, this also gives me a little bit of a Blue Rodeo vibe through that, and the horn section was refreshing to have the hook done off that rather than guitar for once too. Tracks 6 through 8 weren't bad. It sounded like it was very mid-era hip in the discography. Because I kind of just get lost in the lyrics and the slow beat to it. And I just kind of find myself drifting through that and not really as focused again until you get into To Catch the Truth, and you go right back to like a pop punk sound with piano again. I thought Let Me Howl sounded like it was the Police were doing it in the background, and then you just get Gord's voice over top of that. Hell Breaks Loose, it was aggressive and it was subtle. I liked how that was composed together. Safest Day of the Year, yeah, I couldn't put my finger on what it was resembling to me. It was almost like a Fall Out Boy, Panic at the Disco, slower, more meaningful song of theirs. That's what I was getting out of it. It was mysterious to me in that sense. You get in the field, and I immediately thought this sounded like Green Day meets the Strokes behind him. And again, it's Gord on top of it. And then the same thing with There Goes the Sun. It sounded like Gord singing a Beatles track. Like, what I'm getting out of this album is so much layered of different kinds of music, and then adding Gord's vocals to it, which really I think is what accomplished its mission, which was Gord wanting to do something completely different than the Tragically Hip. And I think he explored that to its fullest with this. And I think Bob Rock, especially for what he had to do in the post-production afterwards and how much he put into it, and pushing his vocals to the forefront in a lot of these songs, really accomplished that mission and really making this something that pushed Gord and was different and out of the wheelhouse in a fun way. So
It's kind of like taking your main part of your meal and saying, hey, I could put this with other different kinds of meals. Let me put it with this. Let me put it with this. Let me put it with this. It's going to be good no matter what. They're all going to be different dishes, but the main thing's the same, but you're going to do it differently.
It's like Iron Chef. They're giving you the ingredient. Now go put it with, which is Gord's vocals. Now go put it with other things.
Well, you've got a drummer from Paul McCartney. I can't think of the other guys in the band. I think some of them are from Black Veil Brides, that sat in and did some of the work. So a lot of, definitely a pop album.
It had its, but it was like an indie pop too. It was like
I would agree, but it not all indie pop, but pop, right. But it's a 14 fluid pop record.
And I couldn't believe that. Like I said, I couldn't believe there's a 7.5 minute track on there. The immediate thing that because you know how I speak about music, I was thinking about at least half these songs, and I'm going, oh my god, this could make the NHL video game soundtrack in the early 2000s.
Well, how does Bob Rock, with all the connections he must have, not have one of these songs in like a movie or a TV show or something like that? Unless maybe I just don't know of it.
Well, it did just come out. The album just came out
still.
So it could be coming at some point.
The other thing is who has the rights, right? I know that.
Right.
It's probably a tricky thing, but I know the family keeps things with Gord pretty tight, and the band members respect it as well. So interesting. So Alex,
so I have the scoring.
Yep.
Rifle down the criteria again for me. I have numbers written down.
Album production
5.
Album flow
4.
Songwriting
5.
Musicianship.
I thought it was 5. I thought it was very well done behind him.
Yeah, I like it. Total number of songs you liked.
I went
or loved. I mean, it's like in love. I mean, if you got to separate it.
You know what? Here's where I was at with the 14 tracks. It was really 6, 7, and 8 where I got lost in the album for a hot second, and I think that's also where I docked the flow. So when I say tracks I liked, I wrote down 11.
But I think you get a couple mulligans when you're playing 14 holes, right?
Yeah, 3.
I wrote down 11 tracks I liked, but yet I could see moments where somewhere in that late part of the album wouldn't be necessary. Like maybe I liked it because I was really forcing myself into it. So I said safely 10.
Okay.
I could go with out of the 14 tracks that I liked.
14. All right.
I gave the album itself a complete 5. Like that, it was great. It deserves to be in the end of the year list. Like I said, that one little knock was just the flow where like I get through the first 5 tracks, get a little lost 6 through 8. I'm back on 9 through 14. And it was a little because of the style mix-ups. It wasn't the perfect flow, but it deserves, if you're going to nitpick to at the end of the year to find something to knock an album for, I think those are mine for it. So
great. All right.
Jeff, we can't see you.
Grateful Dude, we've lost your picture. Is that because you're on safe power mode and it won't do video? Any idea?
Bueller.
Do we have audio on you?
Bueller.
Bueller. Ruh-roh. Houston, we may have a problem. Yep, there goes the problem.
Guess I'll go next.
Absolutely.
We'll have to go with the straight guy.
So, yeah, I kind of agree with a lot of what Alex said. I definitely like, the first half of the songs more than the second half. First half was pretty surprising and enjoyable, and
it was attention grabbing for sure.
And then it kind of got to be like, well, okay, it's not going to be totally different every song. How could you be? Like in the first one, Greyjoy says it's like, you're getting the recurring woohoos and lots of drums in the first one. And then,
there he is.
Then you're surprised to hear some piano, a little more energy in the second song. And then with Lustre Parfait, it's okay. Yeah, horns, great. Like they're gonna keep doing something different. It's kind of cool. And I thought the moment in a wild place was interesting because it had like the echo of the piano. It was more dramatic than the first couple songs. And then what's funny is what you're saying too. Like one of those songs. Which one was it? What I was looking at? Oh, especially To Catch the Truth. This and a couple other songs. I felt like you could take these lyrics in the song and give it to Offspring, Green Day, Sum 41. It would sound awesome. I mean, even just the way that Gord was singing it, it was just exactly the way they might do it too. Even if they copycatted it completely, it would just sound really good.
It would just sound exactly, and it would sound completely different because of their vocal styles being just natural.
Yeah, and they had more heavy guitars, but and then is there somewhere with, I guess, legendary Emmylou Harris singing on that as well? Like, but she's got like 16 Grammys,
Yeah.
country Grammy, country award singer. But it wasn't like prominent. It was just like kind of like the cherry on top of the refrains. Camaro was kind of blah to me. But I feel like this album is like a lot of albums where even like older hip or even more obscure hip, like if you're just going to put it in your car, you listen to it, because you're a fan, you're going to listen to it over and over. And some of these songs will grow on you, whether you want them or to or not. I listen to
whether you want them to
I only
or
listen to them
not.
like twice. So
I love that. I love it.
I think it's true. I had the same experience.
There's lots of times
it twice around.
You like the band. Maybe not. It's not your favorite song of the band. But you're like, oh, all right, I like the band. I'll just listen to it. But then, like 2 years later, you're like, oh, I gotta listen to this song.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know how you guys experienced the listen to this too as well, but you reminded me of something else, Jeff, too. I didn't realize there was a music video to accommodate the first track, Gray Boy Says. And I watched that, and it was interesting to see the band.
It was the one where they're all in the studio, right?
Yeah, and Gord in the studio solo, but the band doing its thing on the other side. It almost made me like that song more.
I never watch videos. I guess that's my problem.
Well, I use YouTube to listen to it, so sometimes they have a video or just words.
Sometimes it helps and sometimes it doesn't, but usually when you get across those, you just stumble upon it on accident. Like normally, before I decide to add a band to a playlist, I'll watch on YouTube, and that's where if a music video shows up for one of the singles, so that's where I'll come across it. Anyway,
the other one that had like horns that kind of caught my attention was Something More, which I also thought the lyrics had a little more grit to it, which was nice. Usually you don't get like gritty lyrics with horns. But so I guess overall I would say production, I'll go 4. Flow, I mean, how do you judge flow? I mean, I think you could put the songs almost in any order, be the same. So I'll give that a 4.
That is a preference thing. We're not talking, it's up to you.
Yeah.
Some people love the record to have a pace or a flow that you go into the next song. You're not like, all of a sudden you hear bam, 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 and then bam, bam, bam. It's kind of,
Songwriting, I'm just gonna automatically give it 4. And then musicianship, I mean, I'll say I'm gonna go with 3 on that. And not that it's anything wrong with it. But that's where I'm landing. And then total songs I liked, I'd say, definitely, I would say definitely liked half of them. Probably another week from now, it'll be more. But,
overall?
I mean, overall, it's definitely a 4.
Okay. All right.
I find it funny you mentioned too with what was the track here? Something More. Like you were talking about how heavy the horn section was. Like that was my exact note. It was refreshing that the horns were the instrument chosen between chorus and verses and whatnot, as opposed to a guitar for once. Like it's so easy to fall into that trap where it's got to be a guitar making that sound, but to hear the horns really shine during that was.
I mean, I would have definitely liked to hear one song that was more predominantly guitar, but like the first one was pretty noticeable on the drums, but whatever, they didn't do it, so whatever.
I like that comment.
But I think that too goes into how it was just designed for the vocals to shine, and it was different. That was why I think I enjoyed it more. Was it wasn't so guitar focused. It was like being very hornsy and being very lyrical based of an album was.
Yeah, I mean,
very,
having listened to it only twice, and I'm not gonna pick this up before I pick a Tragical Hip song or up, but it's two different animals almost, even though it's the same singer.
As I've been
Gord Downie
listening
solo records are always different animals. There's no question. There's no relative cohesiveness either. So, which is great. He's his own man. So
meanwhile, I've been listening to Live at the Roxy all week lawn mowing, so I totally understand where that's coming from too.
right.
Taking you all week to lawn mow?
I've done it in various bits and pieces where I've had to landscape off the back tree and weed whack. Yeah.
He only does 2 square feet at a time.
Very small lawnmower. It's a Lego set.
Hey, I do it all by scissors, and my lawnmower's little tykes. Thanks. All right, like I push it around, and all the balls pop around. Yeah.
Grateful Dude. I know that you have been listening to this record quite a bit, so I can't wait to hear what you say.
Almost a month and a half, and I've listened to it about 18 times or more. But I'm gonna make some interesting remarks before I give the review. I have listened to this on my earbuds, on my professional earphones, and on my 13 speaker stereo system. And it's very interesting. There are so much hidden in there that if you're not listening on earbuds, you're not going to hear it.
Yeah, I use headphones for mine.
There's a lot of lead guitar in there. That's the volume's been cranked barely down. So unless you're really listening for it, there is some very strange production crap during this album. Now, I will start this saying that it was an interesting album for me. Definitely not in my wheelhouse, basically. And since I've only started, unlike the three of you, started listening to Tragically Hip, and I've probably only listened to maybe 20 songs over various albums. So this record does not remind me at all of Tragically Hip, except for the vocals. Okay? His vocals are very prominent and very it's him, I can't tell. So let me
I agree.
Let me tell you about the songs. I like Gray Boy Says. In fact, probably my favorite album on the my favorite song on the album.
Yeah, they came out firing with that one.
Yeah, it was beautiful. The ones I did not like, and I use the word stupid, okay? And I think that these lyrics are written first or found on the back of a newspaper. I don't know. And then music added to them. The Raven, god awful, stupidest song I think I've ever heard. Something like that be on the Puff the Magic Dragon album. And then number 2, Stupid, and number 6, Camaro. I don't care. Those words don't make any sense. I understand where they're going with it, but my God, it's like, did you run out of things to talk about? You're going to talk about your fast Camaro? I don't know. I just didn't get it. The North Shore was a little weak for me. I loved Let Me Howl. I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed the In the Field and There Goes the Sun. I enjoyed the horn anytime it was played in this. I thought the musicianship was really good when I listened to it on my earbuds. You hear it a lot more if you listen to it and with my speakers, there was a lot of loss. There was a lot of things got oversaturated. So would I listen to it again? I don't know. I'm not sure.
Well, after 18 times, shit. I mean, I would have worn out my welcome on it too.
Yeah, well, there was a mistake that we won't go into. I thought I was doing this for an album review many months ago, and Mark screwed with me. He loves playing with me. So Mark, give me the categories again. I'll give you my numbers.
Wait, are you Bruce Springsteen? Is that what I'm
Well,
hearing?
Right. That's my name.
All right. So album
No, Mark.
production, 1 to 5.
Which he broke you up. Say it again.
Album production, 1 to 5.
4.
Songwriting,
3.5.
album flow,
Well, if you took out the middle, it'd be a lot higher. So
That was my knock.
3.
No mulligans here.
musicianship,
4.5.
total number of songs that you liked,
3.
overall rating.
Well, even though it's not my style, because the musicianship was really superb, especially with me listening to the earbuds and really listening, these guys can fucking jam. There's no fucking question that these guys are good. Whether I like the songs itself or stuff, the musicians were too good. I could not give this less than a 4 and not hate myself. So 4.
Okay.
So I
Does,
noticed. I was
go
gonna say.
ahead.
I was just gonna say. I noticed between the three of us, it seems like we all kind of got lost at the same part of the album. That middle section of 6 through 8 was what really kind of threw everybody off. I think. You two both mentioned 6.
It was awful.
Well, you two both mentioned 6. Chef Jeff, you mentioned 7, and then even for me, I even went as far as to say 8, even though it was a little.
It's funny. The first time
hit.
I listened to it, when I got to like 6 and 7, I was like, okay, it's starting to not grab me as much. I'm gonna take a break. I'll come back to it later because I didn't want to just be like, turning it into homework and just singing. I want to be, come back to it when you're really ready for it.
I did the same thing.
I played this to a bunch of my work colleagues this weekend, and some heard them, some haven't, and they all thought it sounded like old punk, like the Stills.
I think they said the Smiths. Was that not correct? The Smiths. I can get a little bit of that in a lot of places. I understand now Alex and Jeff's comment about that punk pop, like the Offspring and Sum 41 pieces, right? That that I get. I really do. And I understand Jeff's comment about the flow being a 3 for him.
Well, I laughed because I think Jeff said he enjoyed Let Me Howl.
Mm-hmm.
And my first thought is it reminds me of the Police. The way it was said.
I thought of that too.
My favorite, well, the Gray Boy was Beffin, but I liked it a lot. It had a nice goon to it,
Well, that's what I'm getting
the Gray
at
Boy does kick it off. There's no question. I agree.
But that's also what I'm getting at too for you, Chef Jeff, is like Let Me Howl. It's right in your 80s Police wheelhouse. And when you like track 14, it sounds like the Beatles. That's in the wheelhouse. I mean, track 13, I compared it to Green Day meets the Strokes, but I can also see how that would have some sort of influence too into the same types of things you like too. So yeah, it does fit.
I didn't like that many songs on there. I see that just because it has similarities to a certain band doesn't mean I'm always going to like it. I don't know about you guys. Only in I tend to be more focused for my personal in the lyrics than I am into melody. Just how I've been. I love lyrics and I love good lyrics. And things like the Camaro and the Raven. literally wanted me to make me upchuck. It just was that bad. I really thought it was.
Well, I
They
think what
had-
I was getting at too is it was easy to predict which ones you might like the most out of it.
Now,
Just
see,
given
that I don't agree with. Okay,
Mm,
for
that
Chef
on
Jeff?
that side of things is a younger music listener. Okay, from a standpoint of knowing the band and the individual.
Oh no,
He
I
just
was going with
likes-
predict for Chef Jeff.
Oh, okay, all right.
It was
all right.
easy
I
for
thought we
me
were
to
talking
kind
about
of-
looking at the titles of the
No,
song.
no.
Oh, okay, all right.
No.
I misunderstood.
even though it was the title, I thought Lustre Parfait just fell short. I don't know what I'm just getting to the point and just little that I can understand you guys when you say something. It's not that I don't hear it. It's just that we're all in a different age demographic. That it's amazing how much that makes a difference.
So
It really is.
so I
Because
want
it's
to.
not. Go ahead.
I thought when it cut out, I thought you were good there. Well, I was gonna say too. I noticed looking at Apple Music on this, the popularity of the songs. I don't know how they algorithm this, but I think it's really funny the context of what we're talking about.
Right.
Gray Boy Says has 2 bars of the popularity filled out of what appears to be 10 or 12. And yet, tracks 2 through 6, at least 80% or more of the popularity, which is funny given what we've said about 6 and what Chef Jeff has said about 2.
Well, we don't know. As we said, we don't know what their algorithm is. Either.
Right.
Well, actually, you want to know what their algorithm is?
But then I was
Please.
also going to say 7 has nothing. 8 is 80% again. 9 through 14, 2 bars throughout all those tracks. I find it hilarious that drops off that far after that. But Mark, you were saying too what it is.
Well, the EP came out first, and some of those songs are on the EP. And if you're a Tragically Hip fan, you're a Gord Downie lover, you're going to play the living crap out of whatever was on that EP.
That makes sense.
And I know that Raven and Red Tail Hawk was on there.
Blah.
That even might have been the first one that was out there
Yes.
to begin with.
I'm looking at them right now too. Yeah.
I didn't look, but my memory, I would think that those coincide. If
They first
I'm
released
guessing.
Lustre Parfait as a single, and then The Raven and the Red-Tailed Hawk was released as a 3-song single that also had Lustre Parfait and Is There Nowhere.
Is There Nowhere, right? Yeah.
So,
So
Mark,
that would be my guess.
before I run out of power, why don't you do your thing?
Okay, so this is from 2010. I'm going to say really. We can hear that Bob Rock was able to get the best of Gord. It's a great turn it up and rock along with 2 great forces and bandmates from the Offspring and others that Bob Rock has worked with to make this an excellent record from nearly start to finish. A Moment is a Wild Place might be the best non-tragically hip song Gord Downie ever wrote. So massively relevant and heartfelt, even in the throes of rock progression. I understand where this is coming from, and I understand kind of lately, especially after doing the Tragically Hip catalog this past Sunday, that songwriting for a man with terminal brain cancer is probably not the easiest thing to do. Gord Downie was always a poet, and one of the things that comes with poetic comes with license. And there's not a single solitary Tragically Hip song or Gord Downie song that doesn't have a layer that's a little bit maybe obtuse, indirect, metaphor. There's no storytelling start to finish. It's not how he rolls. That's not how it's ever rolled. So when this comes up and there are other songs on here that I understand are going to grow later on me. But I also understand how the breaking of tracks and thought processes might have been. It's hard when you look back at a record like this and try to gauge it, you know. But I know that in all the 46 albums at the first part of this year, this album still struck a chord with me in the way it was produced. And I agree 1,000,000% that if you don't have headphones on, more than half of it will be lost on you because of the way sound is coming out of it. There's too much interference. My wife made the same comment. She's heard the record a couple of times. She said, listening to it in the car, there were songs that stuck out. Gray Boy was one of them. Gray Boy says, and The Moment Is a Wild Place. But she said the rest of it seemed compressed. Like you weren't getting all of it at a certain point. So, and she was right, because when I listened to it in the car, it was not like I remember listening to my headphones. And then, of course, it went back multiple times. So.
And even with the headphones, okay, I found out, because I have a very good set of headphones, but with the earbuds, with the quote unquote spiral, you pick up like 5 more tracks that they had wedged in the bottom somewhere.
Okay.
It's amazing what the difference. I think I picked out when I was doing it through the my stereo. I picked out probably 6 tracks. Okay, with my headphones on, either I say 10 to 12, but with the my earbuds, probably 16 plus. There are all kinds of different music coming from it, especially if you listen, especially on some Gray Boy. And that one in the middle, which I can't remember because I don't have the list in front of me anymore. But there was some it really was amazing. And production-wise.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to give it a shot one day with my studio headphones, as opposed to these headphones, and see if it gives it a difference. Because I did both run-throughs on my AirPods that were like this.
There are a lot of records like that these days, and I would tell all our Music Multiverse listeners that if you do not have those noise canceling kind of things, get them, because it will enhance your experience. I liken it to listening to a record on a record player that just doesn't have anything else attached to it. It's not that good. It's just not. It's not getting everything you can out of it. So, oh well.
And I think to that matter, it does a disservice to the production.
In some cases, but they should be aware of that kind of thing when they go and do these records, right? They should try to present
street.
the best. I mean, I don't know the whole. Listen, I'm not a producer. I don't know how to do half of that stuff. Hell, I have a problem just putting these things together. So, as Alex has witnessed, just putting stuff on the web. So anyway,
why won't it go down a line?
Yeah. Does anybody else have any other comments or anything before I close the show?
No, we want to hear you, my friend.
Again, this was 16 out of 46 that I had and I am still of the mind that the flow of the record is okay to me. It's a 3. Songwriting, I would go with you that it's a 3.5. I wish there was more, but I get it. I understand where they're coming from on how this happened. The musicianship is a 5. I think it's fantastic. The production's a 5. I think it's fantastic. Of the total songs I liked, I am at least 7 of the 14. I'm sort of with Jeff Young on that one. There are probably, like I said, ones that'll grow on me a little bit more, but nothing will beat The Moment Is a Wild Place for me. Heartfelt is sure. I would say it's a 4 for me as well. I think it belongs in this list at this point with the music that's coming in, and I post some things here and there. I don't think it'll stay at 20. I don't think it'll make the 23 cut. It will probably get bumped by things that are coming out. There's just too much really good stuff, and more to come on that. So.
Yeah, I found I scored this very high compared to you guys, but I think it was also because I kind of went into it with the appreciation, reading about it after my first listen, that it was designed to be so much different than what I know of him as. And I think once I attacked it with that mindset, I grew a much greater appreciation for this album and how deeply layered it was.
How many solo albums of his have you heard, Alex?
I'll be honest with you. I think this might be the only one.
Okay.
It is my only one.
His solo albums are very different from the hip. Extremely different. There might be a couple of soliloquies if you're at a live show that didn't make the hip but wind up in his as lyrics. But and that Coke Machine Glow, and I can't think of the first one that has him, not him, but characters with guns on it.
Mark, did
and
you
then-
see him live?
I'm sorry,
Did you see him live?
by himself? No, he didn't play. He did not play here in the States, except for one show in Buffalo. I think it was one of the free in the square things, but I didn't get to go. It was the most people that were ever at Thursday in the Square, besides Pat Benatar.
I'm surprised Pat Benatar is the challenge on that one.
Well, you wouldn't be surprised. She is very, very popular in a generation. For sure.
And I absolutely love her.
And she
That's-
did rock set, but I think she did jazz too. So she's
That's one that I don't get.
Girlfriend any day.
Well, listen, the 80s show is coming up, so I wonder if she'll be on there.
We'll
I want
see.
to thank
won't we?
I want to thank my panelists for doing this tonight. We are going to do this next week, and the album is the Cowboy Junkies' Such Ferocious Beauty. It will be Deb and my wife again, and one of the gentlemen here could join if they so choose. Well, we'll find out.
I'll go,
Yep.
or all of us can go.
If you want, but yes, I'm trying to get one more. So if the Grateful Dude is in, the Cowboy Junkies' Ferocious Beauty made my number 8 out of 23. So we're on the web at www.beyondyourradio.com, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. Call me, tell me what you want. I'll play anything, do anything. We got to get this rolling, right? So happy listening,
Free
everyone.
money. Remember, free money.